Welcome to Talks with Tracy, with certified hypnotherapist, life coach, and licensed mental health professional, Tracy Claremont. Tracy will share her healing journey and explore the many meaningful alternative healing methods in our world today that will support you in doing your own deepest emotional healing. So please welcome the host of Talks with Tracy, Tracy Claremont. Let the suffering end and the healing begin.
Hello and welcome to Talks with Tracy. I am your host, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you all for joining me today, and thank you, as always, to Bold Brave Television Network for having me. So that's already show number 17. Oh my gosh, time flies when you're having fun, right? And I am having fun. Initially, I was pretty scared about doing all this, but yeah, I really enjoy this now, and I'm so thankful to have this opportunity. So I've been doing a lot of talking about doing the deep dive inward into your emotional healing. And I've had lots of guests on the show now who have shared their stories and been amazing demonstrations of this. I began, of course, by sharing my own story and continuing to share my story, my own personal story. And then I had guests on who talked about how they guide healing and shared their stories. And most recently, I've had guests on who weren't a part of my own healing journey, but have amazing stories to tell and have shared those stories with us. I did the last few episodes sharing the male perspective on healing. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed talking to all those people and hearing those stories. So, it really goes to show that we're all the same. We're all here joined in oneness, doing the work of living, right? And so many similarities and some of the most amazing examples of healing are just like walking right amongst us, right? That they're the people who are, we pass on the sidewalk or we pass as we're going down the road. They have amazing stories of resiliency and just healing and changing those core beliefs, going from suffering to healing to relief. They're right there among us, everyday people. And I love to hear those stories. I really think of them as being walking miracles. And, they don't even really know that they are walking miracles. So I love hearing these kind of stories. I'm always amazed by the resiliency. As I said, I learn from them. I'm inspired from them. I myself grow from them. I've said so many times that we are all works in progress, myself included. I am certainly no exception. So through sharing these stories, we've really looked at core beliefs that we hold about ourselves and how these beliefs come from past experience and the emotion that gets stuck inside of us that generates us through our daily living and really influences our perceptions, colors our perceptions, and really influences our life experiences, creating, as Brene Brown says, those shitty first drafts, or as I say, those core beliefs of I'm a piece of shitness, those things that really serve to devalue us and limit us. So how do we recreate ourselves? Actually, it's not about recreating ourselves at all. Rather, it's a process of shedding those false beliefs and really rediscovering our authentic selves. That authentic self that has been there all along, but has been led astray, by these lies that we've been told or these false truths that we've developed about ourselves based on experiences, these false beliefs that we have then adapted and taken ownership of and believe to be us, our true selves, when really it's not. It's all false beliefs and a lie. So really it's about reclaiming our authentic selves, that authentic self that has been there all the time. Regaining that love for ourselves and that confidence that we were born with. We're reclaiming that our birthright of self-confidence and self-love. Wouldn't that be, it sounds like a big social movement that we should have. Wouldn't that be amazing if the world did this social movement towards reclaiming our self-confidence and our self-love? And I mean, if that happened, we would not have all of the fear and the hatred and the violence that we live in today. So maybe maybe that should be our next social movement. Anyway, so several guests have talked about also about not feeling connected. And my husband talked about that. He talked about being very familiar with being surrounded by people, but feeling alone. That really is the definition of no connection. And quite honestly, that sounded awful to me. Like being in a world surrounded by people with no connection just sounds quite miserable to me. But we've had a few different uh, guests on who have talked about that now. And I really think that is, them talking about this lack of connection to themselves and this process of looking outside of themselves for validation and for connection and for, you know, that kind of personal validation that they mean something. Well, when we only look outside ourselves, this can take us down a very slippery slope, right? This can take us down some dark paths, especially when our experiences are full of challenge and suffering. So, today I have a guest on who I'm so excited to have here. Her name is Lisa Bergerman, and she is quite familiar with these slippery slopes and going down these dark paths based on, some core beliefs that she's had to do a lot of work on. She's a shining example of resiliency, and she is, in my opinion, a walking miracle. She has come full circle in doing her emotional healing, going from a place of suffering all the way around to a place of healing. And she's here and she's willing to tell her story of that today. I'm so very, very happy to have her. She's in that process of reclaiming her authentic self, and such a beautiful process. And she's willing to get a little naked with us today and share her emotional experience and be vulnerable with us. So I'm so very thankful for that. I'm sure she's blushing a little bit right now about my introduction, but it's all true. It's so true about her. So please join me in welcoming Lisa Bergerman to the show. Hi, good morning. How are you?
Good, good. Thank
Good.
you for the introduction. That was very sweet.
Oh, you're welcome. All true. All of it so true. I'm always just so impressed with your story and with your willingness to share your story with us. So I'd love to just kind of dive right into it. I was talking about how our life experiences cause us to develop these false beliefs about ourselves, these core beliefs that we carry that a lot of time, or for the longest time, we don't have awareness of. It really involves having to do the deep dive into your emotional experience to draw your awareness to it and make um, change about, change your narrative. Does all that sound familiar to you?
Oh, yes, very familiar. I honestly didn't realize how dysfunctional and, unhealthy I was until I started my healing journey. Like you just,
Oh,
you grow up. So I grew up in a hard, with a hard childhood. I grew up with domestic violence. I learned at a young age to just, um, shut down and hide my true feelings and
mm,
for survival. And I wasn't um just wasn't sure who I was. I wasn't sure, I just started running and hiding at a very young age. And in that survival mode, I don't even realize like how bad life is. Honestly, you don't
yeah,
you just don't realize how hard things are around you because you're just surviving. And yeah, first of all, like I think this really made me take a look at my life, and I have been for a while, but I just like want to say I think back to when I was a child, and I could not imagine like how wonderful life could have been, back then as it is today. So
Mm.
I just want to say I never dreamed life could be so enjoyable as a healthy, healed, sober woman today. It's amazing.
Yeah. You know, you
And
make a great point that when we're living it, we're gaining our experiences. Um, we don't even really know that um, our maybe our childhood life isn't healthy or isn't normal because we don't know anything different, right? Now
right.
you're saying that you had awareness of how it did not you did not enjoy it. It was not something that you wanted to stay in, and you had the feeling of wanting to escape it. But really, we don't know. We base all our knowing on our experience as we gain experience, which is the tricky stuff about core beliefs, right? We look to those experiences and we develop our truth about ourselves based on those experiences, but they're false truths, right? So,
Yes.
is that the case? Like, maybe you were being moved forward on the basis of false truths about yourself that you didn't have awareness of?
Yeah, so I grew up like anything I felt, anything I did, growing up, it wasn't right. Like I would, even when I was in pain or I was sad or or I didn't want to go home, I wanted to stay with my grandma, but just anything I felt was I would get in trouble for. It wasn't right.
Mm.
So like I learned that the way I felt was not right. It wasn't okay. Like I no matter what I felt,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what I said, it wasn't the right thing at the right time. So I grew up thinking that my feelings were not valid. My feelings were not valid. I thought what I felt, what I said was not ever good enough. It was never the right timing. And so I've just learned to
Mm-hmm.
shut down. And I learned, so that stuck with
Mm-hmm.
me for a long time. And I also learned like as far as relationships go, I grew up watching my mom be abused. And of course that's the kind of relationship I found, so
Mm-hmm.
these core
Yeah,
beliefs.
so I want to interrupt you just for a minute. So you said that whenever you were expressing any kind of need or expressing any kind of feeling, you were shut down around that, like it wasn't a safe thing to do. So
Yes,
you learned to keep it all inside, and
yes,
you also, when children have experiences like that, they develop a belief, a possible false belief that is developed is that they are not good enough, they're not worthy, they're not that they expressing need or emotion is absolutely unsafe and it causes hurt. So you do not do that, right? And
yes,
this can really develop a very dangerous pattern of keeping all of that inside. And as we know, if you do stuff everything and keep it all inside, then it always comes out in some way. Emotion will always find its way out of you, whether it's in healthy ways or unhealthy ways, right? So this can be the very damaging thing for people. But I appreciate you sharing that because I do believe it's the experience of so many children, right?
yes.
It's the experience of so many children in so many different ways. So it's really important for us as caretakers to receive our children's emotion and um, provide a safe environment for them to express emotion and express need. Yeah. So I
That's
appreciate you sharing that.
yes, that's definitely one thing I do is I look at, my childhood and the way I was treated and the false beliefs I've learned about myself because of my home life. And I work really hard to do the opposite for my kids today. I
Mm-hmm.
listen to how they feel. I validate their emotions. I let them know that, how they feel is totally valid. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
okay to react to those feelings. And it's just I use my hard childhood growing up as a way to gauge what not to do for my kids.
Right. Well, that's a beautiful thing, and that is another example of what happens when you do the healing, when you develop your awareness. So I'd love to talk more about your past experience, your childhood experience, and into your adulthood and whatnot. We're needing to take a brief commercial break right now, but when we come back, I'd love to get more in depth into your experience so that we can have a really good understanding of the foundation you had leading up to the point where you that broken open moment, as I like to say, where you decided that change was necessary and you decided to be brave and look at your emotional experience. So please stay tuned for that. You're watching Talks with Tracy with me, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on Bold Brave Television Network. We will be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy with me, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. I have the honor and privilege today of visiting with Lisa Bergerman, who is willing to share her story. She is a beautiful example of resiliency and doing the emotional healing. Now, in our first segment, we talked a little bit, we just kind of got into your backstory, Lisa, a little bit. We mentioned your childhood, but I'd really love to hear more of that so that we can really get a true understanding of your life experiences and those beliefs that were developed within that experience and that emotional energy that just drove you forward and like where it led you to. So can you share a little bit more about your childhood and go into your adulthood?
Yeah, sure. So from as far back as I can remember, I would watch my mom be physically abused, horribly physically
Mm.
abused. Uh, I remember one point I was super young and she was 9 months pregnant and she was being choked out like
Oh.
from my dad. And they were out. We were my older sister was dragging me out the house and away from my mom, and I just remember looking back and screaming like, let me go, because I wanted to help her. Like she was being choked and I
Mm.
thought she was gonna die. And she was like physically dragging me away from the situation. I just remember I wanted to help my mom. I just always, wanted to help my mom and be a good girl and, not cause any chaos or
Mm.
be any problem, because I learned, you know and we learned when to have to be like that, or so my mom like would either be fully engulfed in her relationship and we'd be controlled, and or else he would be gone and so she would be gone, or she'd be upset crying and off to this friend's
Mm.
house, crying in the bedroom on the phone for hours, or looking for him. So we would be unsupervised, so we would be able to do whatever we wanted. So um at a young age I started drinking at like in second grade. Like it was just a way to
Oh,
escape.
wow.
Yeah. And so he would come home and we'd have to be, you know the way, controlled and regulated again, the way like my mom expected us to. Like I remember having growing pains once, or more than once, and it was, it was so painful. Like my legs hurt so
Mm.
bad. I remember like walking out there and crying to her, and he was so, they must have been fighting, and he looked at me so
Mm.
disgusted. She was just like,
Mm.
go back to bed. Like they're fine, you're fine. Like stop crying about it and stop being a wussy and get back in your bed right now, and I just
Mm.
remember going back to bed and crying, and I was like, God, I just want it to stop hurting, and so
Wow,
you know,
I love what you just said, Lisa. Sorry to interrupt, but you
yeah,
said that he looked at you with disgust, and
yeah,
then there was judgment that you were being weak and things like that. Those are great examples of those experiences that stick within us. And then that emotion of shame, like being shamed in that moment of need, those are emotions that stick inside of us. And we then develop our belief about ourselves around. I just wanted to point that out. So please continue.
yeah. So I was a really smart little girl. Like I was a good girl. It might have been around that behavior where I just wanted approval. I wanted to not never get in trouble. I was always, everybody's favorite. And, first grade, when I was in first grade, I remember I was ahead of all the class. They wanted to move me to the second grade. I was super excited, bumped me up a grade. So I was a really smart girl. I was really capable. I was really sweet. And, by the time second grade hit, I started drinking. Me and my
Mm.
sister would get me drunk. My mom would work nights at the bar because my stepdad would be there all the time. So they just started work, she started working there because he was there. Then he became the bouncer, and like they would come home drunk. So like I remember going to school the first time hungover. It was
Mm.
already a way to escape. And so like life went on like that. And I remember the good times were really good. And I remember I was thinking about this last night, and I remember when my stepdad was in a good mood, and happy. He was super fun, super likable, and I just remember my focus was on him, like because he was, he'd take us doing things, and it was never really on my mom in those fun times. It was on him, like gauging if we were gonna have a good day or not, or if we could have
Mm.
fun and laugh, and so I actually enjoyed him more in a twisted way in my childhood than my own mom, because he was fun when he was in a good mood. He was super fun and it was enjoyable.
Mm.
And so I don't really know have too many enjoyable memories of my mom when we were young, because she was an emotional
Mm.
wreck. She was always, yeah, just we were never I was never good enough for her. So
Mhm. Wow, it
so I
sounds super confusing
it
and
was,
like unpredictable and unsafe and chaotic. Like I appreciate you saying that those good times with your stepdad, but like not knowing, kind of walking on eggshells to try to figure out what kind of day it was going to be.
yeah. Yep.
Mm.
And so and then so as I got older, I just started wanting to escape. Like the first time I ran away and went out and got drunk, it was just that was it. I was happy. I was around friends. I didn't
Mm.
feel anything. I didn't have to deal with life at home. And actually, when I first started running away, I'd actually ran away to my grandma's house the first couple times because I just wanted to get away and I didn't know where else to go. And
Mm.
then when I started running away and going with my friends, it was just I was gone. Like I ran away at a
Mm.
young age. I started partying from age 12 on pretty hard. I
Mm.
I remember family members of mine, just I. So I remember also as a young age, I missed this part. I would always live with my aunt, or my uncle, or my grandma for a brief period of time. And I would just so I never wanted to be home. Like I would always
Mm.
live elsewhere, look for love elsewhere. My aunties would be very kind and sweet to me, but they were not living the best lives either. They would give me beer, give me weed, just it was just a cycle. Like, and I'd end up going home when, mom and stepdad were on a good roll, and things were peaceful for a while, for a short time, and then it'd be ugly again, and I would want to leave again. So she would let me go live with somebody else, and
Mm.
I started living with friends at young ages. I just never wanted to be home, and I found
Mm.
happiness there. I found family, family there, and acceptance. I found acceptance with my friends'
Right.
family, my aunts and uncles, but like I said, they weren't all living the best of lives. So,
Right. So
I
you were looking again outside of yourself, though, for validation, for acceptance. And then,
yes,
did that lead you down a dark path in terms of adult relationships as well? Because typically
yeah,
that kind of pattern does.
yes. So by the time I was 16, I ran away out of state.
Mm.
I was in a lot of trouble growing up, like, and I wanted to point out, like, that's why I pointed out, like, I was such a good student as a
Mm.
first grader, because I was amazing and I was smart and intelligent and kind.
Mm.
And then by the time I got to, fourth, fifth grade, I was off and running, and school wasn't
Wow.
even important to me anymore. And
Mm.
I honestly did not pass the seventh grade. I think they passed me seventh grade just because, but you know, they thought I was too mature. They said to remain in the seventh grade. But so yeah, so by the time I was 16, I ran away to Spokane to live with one of my friends, and my mom just. It's like, if you try to take me back, she came over to get me, her and my stepdad, and I said, I will take off right now. Like, I don't want to go back. So they, agreed to let me stay because I had a halfway safe place to stay, and I really didn't give him any choice.
Mm.
I stayed there. I ended up in my first serious
Mm.
relationship when I was 16. And little did I know, like, it was the same kind of relationship that I seen my whole life growing up, and then
Mm.
I had no idea that I was going to choose that kind of relationship at that time. I had no idea that it
Mhm.
was wrong. I'd never seen anything
Yeah, it was
else.
the normal, right? You didn't know any different. And our brains like what's familiar to us. Our minds will gravitate towards what is familiar, whether it's good for us or not.
Yes. So
Mm.
I remember the first time he hit me, and my
Mm.
mom would come and check on me. So by that time we got together, we moved back to Montana. He was from Montana, so we moved back here, and I was living with him and his family. And I remember the first time he hit me, and I was just like, "It's okay, mom. Like, it's okay." Like, and she was devastated, and she was
Mm.
crying, and it wasn't about me. Like, she wasn't really worried about me. She wasn't asking me, "Are you okay?
Mm.
What happened?" She was like, I can't deal with this. And she just, like, broke down and was feeling sorry for herself, basically, is what I seen it.
Oh.
Like, she didn't hug
Mhm.
me. She didn't say, "You're better than this." She didn't say that. It's just like,
Mhm.
I look back now and I think it was her guilt. Maybe, like, she kind of realized this was a part of her doing. But I
Mm.
just remember me sitting there like, it's okay. Like, I'm okay. I had a big black eye. Like, I wasn't okay, and
Mm. Oh.
I didn't feel like, I didn't feel like it was wrong. I was like, I can handle this. I'm all right. Like, I seen you do it your whole life. Like, it's gonna be okay.
Mm.
So I stuck around in that relationship for quite a few years, and
Wow.
like a lot of years. And we had several kids together. So our first child passed away,
Mm.
and then that was devastating. And then I ended up having two more girls with him. It was if my first daughter passed away. We had two more daughters. Shortly after my second, or well, it'd be our third daughter was born, he left me, and I felt like my life was over. Like I just totally felt like life was over. I didn't know how to live without him. I didn't know who I was without him. I left my kids. I was in my mind, I lost my daughter, I lost him, I lost everything I know.
Oh,
And it was just, I was devastated.
wow.
And it
So
was,
I would love to hear more about like that sounds like a low point, but I'm guessing that you continue. That wasn't necessarily a breaking point for you,
uh,
like a change point. So I'd love to hear like even at that low point how you continued on. We do need to cut to another commercial break, but when we come back, I'd love for you to pick up there and then move into talking about where that breaking point did come at and that broken open point, as I like to say, so that we
okay.
can hear like how you turned all this around. So we're gonna break for a commercial. You're watching Talks with Tracy with me, Tracy Claremont, on Bold Brave Television. We'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television Network. We are here with Lisa Bergerman, and she is so candidly and beautifully sharing her story so vulnerably, so bravely, fearlessly, sharing her story. You know, we were talking, Lisa, about your childhood experience and how you were in a relationship that sounds like it was quite abusive. Like, actually, it was quite abusive. You're describing abuse and black eyes and things like that. And then you were also talking about some true losses that you suffered in the midst of all of this. Can you kind of pick up from there and talk about where that led you to? And I'd love to hear where that broken open moment was, where you decided enough is enough and I need to turn this around.
Yes. Yes, I realize we have, like, I could go into detail on and on about my life, but long story short, I, got heavily into drugs. I was,
Mm.
into meth, into alcohol, just you name it. I was in a abusive relationship. I was into drugs. I lost my kids multiple times
Mm.
to social services,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
and
So now
black.
would you say the drugs were numbing and also what you knew, like a combination of those things?
Yeah, this is what I knew. Like I would, it was normal to me. I grew up that way. It became normal. It was
Mm-hmm.
just what I did, and it helped me cope with life, and it helped me get through the hard times and escape, you know, escape the reality of where my life was.
I escaped the
But
feeling.
yeah, I would in and out of jail. Like I said, lost my kids multiple times.
Mm.
Um, and I would get really low and I'd pick myself up just long enough, to get sober, get my kids back, but I was never truly happy. I was never truly happy inside, and it would last a year tops. A year I'd be sober, I'd get my kids back, and then I would, you know, in a blink of an eye, I would just turn away from everything and walk away and go back to
Mm.
just lose everything, including my kids. And I was hurting my kids. I was hurting myself. So yeah,
Yeah,
so
and a lot of times, excuse me,
Mhm.
when these kind of things are happening and we haven't gone inward to look at our own selves, we assign blame. Like you're talking about like foster care and things like that. Maybe there's um, a mentality of victim that happens there. Like you blame the system for taking your kids, or uh, maybe blame your ex for um, things. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I was definitely a victim most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, how could you do this to me? Or, how could you leave me? How could you take my kids? I'm a really good mom. I really love my kids.
Mm-hmm.
One time, so I was in jail this one time, and I had just gotten my kids, and this was the last time. Well, before that, so I was going to this therapist, and she told me, well, you're enabling him to treat you like that. And I was like, what? I'm not allowing him to hit me. What do you mean? She's like, you're enabling him, you're allowing it. I was like, I would never allow somebody to hit me. She's like, well, you're staying there and you allow it to happen. And I was like, it was like a slap in the face. Is like, I am like, I could have left at any time. And that was kind of an aha moment on my relationship, and where what my part in that was is like, I had the power to leave, not the inner power, but I had the ability to
Mm-hmm.
leave at any time. But I didn't even realize that was a choice. And it just was like a slap in the face and an aha moment. I was like, oh wow, you're right. I allowed me and my kids to go through this mess for this many years. And I literally have the ability to leave at any time. You know, I didn't have the strength, of course, but so then I fast forward, I ended up, losing my kids again. I ended up so I before that time I had the intentions, 100% intended in my heart. I promised my kids even I would not lose them again to CPS. I had three more little ones at this time. My three older ones were grown. And I was like, I promise you, I'm not going to lose you again. I'm not going to do drugs again. I was going to school, and that was my 100% intentions. I did not want to put them or myself through this again. I was done with the relationship. Sure enough, but I wasn't doing any of the work. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
going to
Like the
therapy.
inner work.
Yeah, my inner work. I wasn't looking at myself. I wasn't healing. I wasn't working on healing. I wasn't going to therapy. I just started going to school, being a mom, taking care of my kids, going through the motions, and I was still empty inside, and I wasn't healing.
Mm-hmm.
And the first moment that my ex came back into my life, we was off and running again. I was started doing drugs, cope with the relationship. I was hurting my kids. Pretty soon CPS was involved. Pretty soon I found myself locked up with facing four
Right.
felony charges. Yeah,
All of those patterns repeating itself.
yeah, because I didn't do any of the work. I wasn't healing myself. So I was, I found myself in jail. I was facing a long stretch of time. My kids were back in social services. I was just like, oh my God, I couldn't face reality. And I was doing everything I could in jail to not feel my feelings, including like getting on heavy medications, whatever, and abusing meds. I was just whatever I could do in jail, I was doing it. And then one time, like I ended up in this jail over in Fort Benton, in the middle of nowhere, just waiting to go to prison. And there was this pastor that would come into the jail over there, and there was just a few of us, and they're like, oh, do you want to come to Bible study with me? And I was like, sure, like, why not get out of the cell? And so I went there, and I started listening to what he was saying, and I was like, well, why? I have faith. I have faith in God. I have faith, like, that I grew up having faith, because my grandpa. And I said, and why does this keep happening? Like, I didn't intend. He's like, Lisa, like, you're going to go through these motions over and over until you get it right, until you realize that you need to put God first in your life. And that was an aha moment. I was like, that's all I need to do. And he's like, yeah. He's like, and I was like, well, how do I do that? And then I was off, I was like on this tangent of how do I put God first in my life so I don't have to go through this cycle anymore? And that was the day also that I agreed, like I felt like a selfish person, because I almost got in trouble in jail for having substances in jail, and that scared me. I was like, how can I be this selfish to get into more trouble, to be gone even longer from my kids, just because I can't stand
Mm,
the way I feel? That's
mm,
pretty selfish and pretty weak. I said, so I need to do something different. I need to deal with my feelings. I need to face reality. And when I
mhm,
got all my paperwork from the charges and from when they found my kids with me, and I read it, when I read in black and white what the situation I had my kids in, and the things, it was like also a slap in the face. Like, I was always had, oh, I'm a good mom, I love my kids, I do what's best for them.
mhm,
Even when I messed up, I put them in a safe place, and leave them there so they don't get, but when I read in black and white the situation I put my kids in, it was like a slap in the face also. I was like, oh my God, I'm not a good mom. I put my kids in horrible situations. They've seen horrible things, and everything just
mhm.
started flooding into my mind. And like, I
Wow.
got to do something different. I got to change this. And so I was like, going to Bible study, and I was like, how do I put God first in my life? How do I have faith? How do I do this? Because I want a better life for me and my kids. And so,
Mhm.
so that's when my journey began, and that's the day so I was I the day I decided to do that was the day that I choose or that I was sober. So I've been clean off of substances since that day for 4.5 years. It was August 13th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and
Beautiful.
I and since then I've just, my faith in that I'm gonna be okay is grown. Like,
Mhm.
my look inward and my accountability to what I've done to my kids, you know,
And to
what I've done in
yourself.
my life is been hard, and it's been amazing at the same time. I'm no longer a victim. So I'm no
Mhm,
longer a victim. I do not blame my abuser for the things that I went through in my relationship, because like I said, if it wasn't, like I say, if it wasn't him, it would have been somebody else. I know
mhm.
that now. I know that back then I didn't know that. I was totally on him. I was totally blaming him for everything. And although it wasn't okay for, it's not okay for anybody to hit another human being. That's
Mhm,
his stuff, not mine. And my part is that, I put myself in that relationship, and I allowed it. And I allowed my kids
mhm.
to be hurt by it, and I allowed myself to be hurt by it. Um
Right, and
and
now you're going to value yourself, love yourself more than that. Is that
oh
correct?
yeah, correct. I definitely value and love myself more. I'm still single after 4 years of, being sober, because I'm still finding out who I am. I'm finding out what I like,
Mhm,
what I deserve, what I want. And I'm still
mhm,
healing. Like, I went through a long, long life of abuse, chaos, hiding
mhm.
my emotions. And now that I'm, and this healing journey has not been easy. It has not been easy, and it's not over. Like, but it's amazing. It's amazing to be able to be accountable, and to be able to look at myself in the mirror and say, yeah, I
Mm.
was this mom, I was this person, I was this drug abuser, I was in prison before, and now I'm here, and now this is who I am
Right,
today.
and those were the places that those false beliefs about yourself took you. Those were those dark paths, and now you've gotten back to like shedding those layers, right?
Yes,
Unshaming yourself to get to your true, authentic self and who you were all along. You just were led astray by all of these experiences and beliefs and lies that developed about yourself. Yeah,
yes.
that's amazing. And also, you've said to me before that you accepted help from others, like you came to the recognition that it's okay to accept help and guidance from others because, if you could do it all on your own, you would have, right?
Correct. Yeah. If I started trusting in the people that were trying to help me, instead of them being the enemies, like social services, probation and parole, therapists. Instead of, I would go in the past and just tell them what they wanted to hear, tell them, go through the motions, and play the part, and are they would be the enemy because they put me in jail, or they took my kids, and now it's I trusted them to help me. I listened to what they had to say, and that's when my life started changing, is when I started listening to what people were telling me to do. Like, I didn't know what to do. If I would have been able to heal myself or change my life, I would have done it years ago, because I was
Mhm.
miserable for years, but I didn't know how. So when I started listening to what people were telling me to do, uh, things started changing for me. My life started getting better, and that's when I was like,
Mm.
another aha. I was like, oh my god, like these guys can help me. Let people help me. Let them guide me into this healing journey. Like,
Oh, beautiful. That's
yeah.
so amazing. So, we're going to cut to another commercial break real fast. But when we come back for our last segment, I would love for you to start with saying where you're at now, because truly you're a walking miracle. You have turned all of this around in the most amazing ways, and you are at a completely different place in your life, more your authentic self than ever, and you're still continuing to grow. So I'd love for you to share that in our last segment. But first, we're going to take a break. You're watching Talks with Tracy here on Bold Brave Television. We will be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery, or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy, with me, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on Bold Brave Television Network. Lisa has been sharing her story, and I did want to say, Lisa, I sometimes people will put information in the chat, and I wanted to say there was a chat message that I just read where the person said that they are hearing so much of their own story in your story, and that kind of thing makes me want to cry as well, because that's what this is about, joining in sameness. And you're such an inspiration. Your story is so incredible. So I love that people hear their own story in your story. That's the beauty of connection. So thank
Yes.
you for that. Thank you for that, and thank you for that chat message. I appreciate that. So tell us, Lisa, tell us where you're at now. You have come full circle. Tell us about that.
Yes, I have. So today I have full custody of my kids. I've had full custody of them for the last 3 years. I'm 4.5 years
Amazing.
clean. Of course, like I said before, I am now the treatment coordinator for a drug court coordinator for drug court here in Lake County. So my life and my work is helping people that are going through the same thing I've went through in my life: the addiction, the legal matters. And it's amazing because I know a lot of them from the past, and they say that it's very comforting that I'm one of the first faces they see when they're coming out of prison, or when they're sobering up, or coming out of treatment and starting our program. it really helps to know that I'm here and I'm here to help them and I get them and I understand. I'm also
Mm.
working side by side with some of the people that sentenced me to prison. Now, I
Oh,
work with judges and prosecutors, and they
I
have
love that,
respect for
side
me.
by side,
And
equal.
it's
You're
amazing.
equals.
Yep, and they
Beautiful.
respect me.
Oh.
They value my work. They value me as a person. They know my past just as well as anybody else, and they still have the respect for me that of who I am today. It's amazing. Yeah, I love my life today. One of the things I've been working on extensively with my therapist is emotional regulation and not letting the triggers in my life and I like to have control and of my emotions, like the way I respond to people. So
Mhm.
I call it responding, not reacting. And I'm able to teach that
Absolutely.
to my clients today also, like appropriately responding to situations and why they
Mhm.
react, what might be going on inside them. It might be trauma from the past. So I'm able to help them just through my own experiences and my own healing journey. And it's amazing.
Mm.
It's just I'm in the perfect position. Like this job is perfect for me. I'm also able to help my old adult kids. They see me as a role model, and I can never make up for anything I've done to them in the
Mm.
past, even my younger ones. But the only thing I can do is forgive myself and to be the best parent moving forward. And I don't let
Mm.
the guilt or of anything I've done in the past get in the way of me being a better mom today. So we have wonderful lives. I'm buying my own house. I close
Yeah.
on the 21st. It'll be in this has been a dream of mine for years to buy my own place for me and my kids. So that's
Mm.
happening. I've come so far in the last 4.5 years that it's amazing. I have a community of people that are my support system, and the circle keeps growing. Like I just want to say a few words. Like, so healing is a choice. You can choose to be a healthy person, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of accountability and a lot of looking inward and forgiving yourself
Mhm.
and
Ah.
forgiving the people that have hurt you also, because that's part of your journey, not theirs. They're still going to be the same person, but you need to forgive them for
Mhm.
yourself. You
Right,
have
which and forgiveness, like you said before, forgiveness is not about condoning things that they
no,
did to you. You're not like saying it was okay for you to do that. That's not it. But you are saying that you forgive for the sake of letting it go
letting
and
it go.
not allowing it to have any control over you anymore. You
Yes.
forgive for your own sake. So you move on.
Yep, not being the victim. Yeah,
Mhm.
so not being their victim anymore. And
Ah.
so being open and vulnerable is something I am happy to do now today, like I did today on this show, because it empowers me.
Yes.
It gives me strength. Before I would be even a year ago, I'd be terrified to be on this talk show. And today I'm happy to do it. I feel confident in myself. Uh,
Yeah.
like I've learned to give myself the grace to not have to be perfect, and it's okay to make
Mm,
mistakes. Like I
beautiful.
said, it's just the journey of healing is very hard, but it's super empowering and it's well worth the struggle. It's well worth the work because the outcome is amazing. And I'm still healing. I'm still working on myself, but it's becoming exciting. It's becoming not as daunting. It does get easier, and it's
Mm,
actually gives me strength. The more inward I look, the more healing I do, the more stronger of person I become, the more
mm,
confident I am, and the farther I can go and the better I can help people and be here for my kids. You got a lot of the
right, right.
past. Yeah. So and I want to say one more thing. The only way to get over the past is to move forward and do the next right thing. And I think I've already said that about my parenting. So yeah, it's amazing life today.
Ah, again, you were such a beautiful example, a demonstration of doing the work, and truly inspirational, coming full circle. It's amazing. I've known you for so many years, and it's such a beautiful thing that you have done that deep dive inward and done the work in your emotional experience. And that's the kind of work that breaks the cycle and breaks the patterns of dysfunction that you were caught up in for so long. So there is no going backwards, right? It's all forward movement. And
Yes.
I so appreciate you sharing your story and being so fearless and vulnerable with us today. It's been amazing, and I look forward to seeing all the great things that you do in the future. You're so amazing. So thank you so much, Lisa, for being here today. And thank you, everybody, for watching today, and everybody who will be watching this show in the future. I truly hope you are also inspired by this. So next week on the show, I'm going to kind of be demonstrating a little bit of my own healing. There's been some things that have been kind of rolling around in my brain about unshaming and learning to trust. And sometimes when I have things rolling around in my head, I need a little guidance and help in sorting it out. So I've asked my friend Lisa Adams, psychic medium, to come on next week with me and just help me sort out some experiences that I've had, and some, help me kind of put some pieces of my own puzzle together. And I just decided I'm going to do it right here on the show. I might as well, and see where it takes us. So again, talking about unshaming and learning to trust self, which has been a very big learning lesson in this lifetime for me that I'm still working on. We're all works in progress. So please join me next week for that with Lisa Adams. You've been watching Talks with Tracy with me, Tracy Claremont, on Bold Brave Television Network. I'll see you next week.
This has been Talks with Tracy. Join us each week as Tracy and her guests will come together and realize that underneath it all, we are all the same and never alone. So join us each week and let Talks with Tracy be your safe place to land in your healing journey. Right here, Thursdays, 11 a.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.